Hold on. Hello and welcome along to WD18, the Watford fan channel. Hope all's well. Hope all's good, Hornets. What a win yesterday away at Hillsborough. Two men who were there in the away end, Adam Drury and David Cameron Walker, joining us on the show live on this Sunday evening. Thanks so much for your company. Let us know your thoughts, feelings about Watford in general at the moment, about the win yesterday. It did finish Sheffield Wednesday 2, Watford 6. As always, this is brought to you in partnership with Hertfordshire Mind. No Charlie today, obviously no Sam. Sam's match reaction yesterday in the Benidorm of Australia, as he called it, doing his match reaction. I think that was probably the best location of a match reaction we've had here on the channel. So make sure you do check it out for the instant thoughts and feelings from Sam. DCW, it's great to have you back on. I guess if you could sum up yesterday in let's do, well, I'm not going to say 6 words, but maybe your 3-word review of yesterday, what would it be?
Vakoun Bayo.
Bayo's on fire.
I mean, where do you even start with that? Adam, atmosphere-wise, yesterday, was it one of the better away days you've been on? I can imagine for obvious reasons, but
it was quite a I did actually think even in the first half it was a relatively sort of supportive atmosphere, which is always quite nice. You get those days where it feels like it's sort of turning a bit sour. I guess the result always obviously has a big part to play in that. But yeah, I enjoyed it. Second half was just weird. I think people just sort of like couldn't really believe what they were seeing. But yeah, as we were saying just before we came on, we always get 1 or 2 of these away days a season when it feels like everything just clicks. It could even be just like one half of football where every attack, every shot seems to be going in. And it was just one of those days yesterday where it all came together. Probably better than it will do all season for half an hour.
Just one of those days. Watford score 6 away from home for the first time since we beat Leeds 6-1 at Ellen Road in October 2012. Any of you lads at that one?
I wasn't at that one. I wasn't at that one. And there was a game where we put 6 past Millwall a few years before that as well. So I know we had the 5-1 against Preston last season, but to score 6 away from home, that does properly feel like a once in a sort of decade kind of thing, really. And that's kind of what we were saying on the train on the way back. We're bumping into Watford fans along the way and stuff. And it was like these days they don't come around that often. And we'll get into the game and kind of how it all transpired. But it's one of those where, look, between us, I'm sure Adam and Jacob, you've been to a lot more away games than I have, but I bet you've been to some, you've lived through the hard times recently and over the years. So when you get one of these games comes along and you have a good day, we were lucky to be there with a lot of the guys from the Rookery end, sort of extended family, and quite literally some of their kids and stuff were there with us as well. And it was just a really good day. Just everyone enjoyed themselves. You can't quite believe what's happening in front of you. And yeah, it was great.
Wicked. As Dave says, we'll get all into it in just a second. If you could leave a like on the video, subscribe to WD18, comment down below your thoughts in the live chat. As I said, if you're watching this back, make sure to do it below as well. If you are listening on audio, hate to be that guy once again, but drop us a review. It does really help us out. I know actually a lot more people are listening just on audio on iTunes, on Spotify. We won't take the Crown of Watford podcast from the Recruit, which Dave is obviously on, but make sure to follow Dave and Adam in the comment section below, and WD18 at WD18 fans. Right, lads, do you know what? Before we even start sort of chronologically, because I feel like it's one of those games where there's so much to discuss and break down, I'm quite conscious that I'll miss something. So I wanted to just first off talk about this away day curse in inverted commas, because it is the first away win for Watford this season since the opening day against Millwall with that late last minute Militarievich winner, which feels like a long time ago in August. Adam, did you buy into this away day curse, and did you buy into the fact that you wouldn't see an away day win for a long time? Because it just felt like every time Watford went on the road, no one really expected anything.
Yeah, we talked a little bit last time, didn't we? Last time I was on, so a few weeks ago after Luton, about how maybe Tom Cleverley was sort of overreaching away from home, and he was coming out with these grand statements about this is the week we put in the statement performance and we prove ourselves as a top team. Thought it was interesting this week that I think we had a little bit less of that, maybe a little bit less chat, slightly more understated going into the game. And maybe that made, I don't know if it made a material difference, but it felt like the level of expectation and actually the angst if we hadn't won the game wouldn't have been there quite so much. But to be honest, it always felt like this kind of freakish run of results where we're winning basically every home game and losing every away game easily. That's not the kind of thing that's going to carry on all season. And actually, I think we said, if you go back through the away games we've lost, there are moments in all of them, you can pinpoint specific moments where if the ball bounces and, the ball bounces a slightly different way, if we score, Jefferson's chance at Norwich, the chances we missed at Preston, like games change on little moments. And I think yesterday was just one of those days where all the moments went our way in the second half. Winning 2 penalties gets us on the front foot. Suddenly we're full of confidence. So, I mean, I'm always kind of amazed by the difference between home and away form in general in football. I can never quite get my head around how these things work, how they're so separate. I think yesterday was an example of where we just took advantage of 1 or 2 little things going our way. And proves what a good team we can be when we're full of confidence.
Dave, that's more goals in one afternoon than Watford had scored in their previous 6 Championship away games added together. I guess as guys who have all gone to get away games this season, did yesterday make up for Luton, for Norwich, for Preston? Less so at Leeds, because we probably deserved a point at Elland Road. But did it make up for those long, hard trips up there, or are you not getting carried away with this one?
I suppose in a way it might have done. If you'd gone to some of those away games, like I was with Colin and Ollie yesterday, and they'd schlepped all the way up to Preston on a midweek night a few weeks ago, and I think yesterday they thought that was payback. But the concern is, in a sort of tongue-in-cheek way, is that we've used up our allowance for the games that are on the way. Are we gonna? Can you see us following up at Swansea with a similar sort of victory? Probably not. Who knows? But it should give us, at least what it should do is give us confidence, particularly Bayo. He's got to be, it's the best game of his life. So he's got to try and keep on and kick on. And a lot of those players did look very confident. And it's easy to look confident when you're 4-1 up, 4-2 up, 5-2 up, 6-2 up. So I hope they can kind of retain some of that confidence and that performance level going into the next games. But I think you're right, Adam. It always felt like it was going to turn at some point. We were never going to keep on losing every away game. Again, that means we're probably going to lose a home game at some point soon. The next one's on Friday against Oxford on TV, I think. So wouldn't be too surprising if that was the time when we fluffed our lines against a team you'd be expecting to beat at home. We've beaten some of the best teams in the league at home. So yeah.
Let's have a little look at the lineup, because it caused a bit of a split in opinion, because no one could really work out what the shape was, Adam. Some people were saying it was 3 at the back with Tom Ince sort of filling in as an unorthodox wing back. It turned out to be a 4-1 out of possession, which went to a sort of 4-3-3 in possession, with Batman in goal, Ryan Porteous filling in at right back, Sierra to Pollock, Yasser Larouci, with Dwomoh making his debut for Watford. His full debut anyway, obviously featured away at Manchester City. Tom Ince, Edu Kiembo, Chatford on the left, and Quadro Bar on the right, with Bayo leading the line. Just initially, Adam, just looking at that lineup, what did you make of it? Because it caught a few people off guard. And I guess the one thing to mention is obviously with Sissoko's retrospective ban against Blackburn, it meant that hole had to be filled. Dwomoh came in, and I'm sure we'll get onto his performance because it was really composed. But just looking at that team on paper, did any of the picks surprise you?
I mean, yeah, I think the whole thing was a bit of a surprise. I've just got to the bit of the From the Rookery End pod where you're all trying to work out what this could possibly be. Trying to distill what the shape might be where everyone's playing. I also thought that Ince at right wing back was possibly what it was going to be when I first read the lineup. I didn't think the 4 at the back, the change to 4 at the back against Blackburn obviously changed that game and worked really well, but I didn't think it was something he was going to do from the start quite so quickly. It felt like he even referred to it after that game as a good plan B, a good option for us to turn to. So I don't know whether the Sissoko injury really made a difference because he wanted to get 3 sort of sturdy midfielders in there. I think this would have been the midfield, whichever shape he picked. Obviously, the key element to this change is getting Bar in his natural position out on the right, which he can't really do in a system with wing backs, and that proved very worthwhile for the first goal when he was out on the right side and set up the opener with a brilliant piece of skill. But yeah, I was a little bit surprised and kind of I didn't think I thought having made 3 at the back, so much of his identity and the way that he was going to try and build this Watford team through this season.
We might have lost Adam. We might have jumped out. We'll feel a bit of dead air, Dave, because Stuart says in the comment section, I thought Edo Kiembe was playing deeper. I personally thought it was closer to a 4-2-3-1. I guess probably my question to you would be, Dave, when you look at this Watford team, you look at the way the squad's made, are we suited more to a 4 than a 3 at the back?
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about that. I mean, I didn't think the back four were amazing in the first half. And Porteous obviously scored a goal, and he always gives you his all, but he's not a right back. We've seen him play right wing back for a short spell one of the games earlier in the season. He's not really suited to being out there, and the goal did come down. The cross came in from his side, and him and Sirauta in that back four on the right hand side of that back four. There were a few sticky moments in the first half. But it does, as Adam said, it does give us options in terms of getting an extra attacking player or an extra midfielder on the pitch. Yesterday, it did work well. Yeah, I think we're probably right there. I think 4-2, it was kind of, Kiembe was sort of playing midfield and Dwomoh was next to him. And, you know, sometimes those lineups on SofaScore or whatever score app you use, they're not always bang on, are they? But I think it is really important that we play to the strengths of our best players, and getting Bar out wide, although he didn't have his best game yesterday, Bar, really. He obviously created the first goal, but really it was, you know, Chakvatadze was outstanding yesterday, attacking wise, I thought, and obviously Bayo gets the headlines, and Dwomoh's performance was good. Ebesele was really good when he came on off the bench, but getting Bar out wide and getting him one-on-one against the fullback is just repeatedly proven to be a vital source of chance creation for us. He's so good at just slowing it down, standing up a defender, knocking it round him, keeping it on the pitch when maybe it looks like there's not enough space to do so, because he's got that speed over a few yards, putting a ball into the box, which is exactly what he did for the first goal. And it's, you know, it's one of those things where you watch football and, you know, it can be very complicated, and it is very complicated, but in that instance, it's very, very simple. Like we've got a great weapon there, and we've got to try and use it as much as possible. And that's why, you know, whether he's playing as one of those two like number 10s in the 3-4-2-1 system, or whether he's playing out wide in the 4-2-3-1, I don't want to see him in that central striking role anymore. I think we've got to get him on the ball in those wide areas as much as possible.
HJ in the comment section, Adam says, I honestly don't think one game's when we are better as a back four. I think with our wing backs, 3 at the back is something that will work for us. Maybe there's a conversation to be had, though, Adam, about whether Charlie would love this conversation, by the way. As soon as you get to tactics, he loves it. It brings up the screenshots. But it's whether we go to a 4 at the back away from home, or whether 3 at the back's more suited to playing at home at Vicarage Road. Where do you stand on that and sort of this Watford team? Because I think one of my biggest criticisms of Cleverley in the sort of early days of his coaching career, which we have to stress it is early days, is probably that at the start it did feel like we had one plan and one way of playing, and didn't really have an alternative when there was a change in conditions. I mean, Luton away is a good example. When we would go away to Norwich, we had one way of playing, but actually in these last couple of games, he's developed a different plan, and yesterday was that as well. So would you say the 4 at the back is more suited, or do you still think the 3 at the back has a place for this team?
I think there's definitely still a place for 3 at the back. I think as much as I agree that you don't want to have just one way of playing, I also think it's important that we know what we are as a team and what we're trying to do, and that there is an identity there, because that's what we've not had for a long time. So that's why I was a little bit surprised he changed the shape actually from the start yesterday, because I don't think he'll want to get into a situation where there's any kind of uncertainty about what we're trying to do week to week. But obviously it is good to be versatile as well. Bar is the player it suits the best, but actually I would say the fact that Porteous started at right back yesterday maybe suggests that there's some uncertainty about those wing backs at fullback, and whether he'd want to play, say, Ebesele and Larouci in the same side at fullback, even though I thought Ebesele was absolutely superb when he came on. So there's probably, you know, the squad's been built to play with wing backs really. And then Bar's come along as this kind of joker from the pack, who's suddenly an outstanding winger and kind of maybe upsetting the balance of what he was trying to do in the first place. But there's room for both. Like, I think it'll be opposition dependent. Obviously, with the 4-3-3, you get 3 bodies in midfield, and that's been one of the biggest issues, I think, in the 3-4-2-1 with Sissoko and Dele Bashiru. They were getting outnumbered. Neither of them are the best defensively. So actually packing that midfield with bodies and just congesting that area with Dwomoh coming in yesterday, who was so dynamic and covered the pitch, I think better than any of those other guys have done so far this season. It gives you that. So good to have the options, but this certainly isn't the end of three at the back in my eyes.
Sure. Before we move on to the first half, I just wanted to throw this one over to you, Dave. Max says, Quadro Bar has all the best sides of Isaac Success, Gifton Noel Williams, and Northern Water. Where do you stand on that?
Wow, what a 3 players that is. You can combine them all. Yeah, I mean, look, he's explosive, he's quick, he's big, he's got a big frame, he's strong, doesn't get knocked off the ball easily, and I think you're bang on, Adam. Like he's kind of come out of nowhere. I wonder whether in pre-season Cleverly really saw him being as important and essential to what we're doing as he has become, because I think he's been around for a few years. He had his loan at Burton. He could easily have sort of drifted away and been one of those players, I don't know, like Jerome Sinclair or someone who we thought maybe had something, but just never materialized. But all of a sudden, especially if you're Gino, you're probably rubbing your hands together now and you're thinking he's him or Georgie, probably the sort of next cab off the rank in terms of a player that you could sell on for a decent fee. But if it has become anything of a problem or a headache for Tom, it's a good one to have. And yeah, it's great. It's great to see. It's great to have a player that we're excited by.
21 years of age, by the way. I mean, it's a frightening prospect. I think Andrew French mentioned it in his post-match article where he said that every sort of aspect you want from a winger, whether that's taking them on 1v1, whether that's dropping a little bit short, whether that's running in behind, Bar can do all of them. And you think of sort of fullbacks in the Championship, I back him against most fullbacks in the league to either beat them or get around them. And I think as you guys mentioned, that system does bring the best out of him. Granted, as you said, Dave, I don't think it was his best performance for the whole 90, but he's a moments player, Bar. If you get him in the right positions, he will give you those moments as he did in the first half. Adam, on the first half, fair to say Sheffield Wednesday were the better side and looked the more dangerous going forward. I mean, purely from a statistical point of view, they had 10 attempts on goal, 57% of the possession. Well, not Watford lucky to go in level at the break, but do you think Sheffield Wednesday shaded it in terms of performance?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's what makes this scoreline more freakish when we look at it now, is that at half-time, I think there was probably a feeling that it was near enough more of the same, that we were struggling, they were getting on top. We couldn't really, we did grow into the game more. I think it was a very shaky first few minutes, which is something that we've come to expect. And then Dwomoh actually really started to impose himself. And I think the way he established himself in the game helps us establish ourselves more. Obviously eventually got that first goal, but it felt like at times this season, and definitely yesterday, where wherever the ball is on the pitch, you can imagine that within 5 or 10 seconds, they're going to be running at our back four. Like, we're exposed. We've got those centre-backs who are being pulled out wide, particularly in the back four yesterday for the goal, where the ball comes past Porteous and then suddenly Sierralta's out on the flank trying to defend against the winger one-on-one. There's that vulnerability there where we seem a little bit too easy to play through. And I think we saw that throughout the first half yesterday. I guess one way to stop that is to be as neat and tidy in possession and make sure you dominate the game as much as possible, which is what we managed to do in the second half. But we can see it in the numbers. I saw a stat today that we've conceded more goals than all the other teams in the top 6 combined. I think something like that. It's something mad. 21 goals or 22 goals I think we've conceded. So there is a real vulnerability there, and it feels like too often it doesn't take much for suddenly the whole back line to be out of shape and chasing shadows. And that's what happened for the first goal. So that's obviously an issue with the back four as well. If the fullback gets pulled out or makes a mistake, suddenly you're a little bit more exposed. So yeah, it felt at half time certainly like I think we were on the back foot, quite fortunate to go in all square. And yeah, I certainly felt some trepidation about where it was going from there.
Yeah, we had to hang in there, didn't we? I think, and even early on, as you say, like they looked like they were causing us problems from set pieces and crosses. There were a few headers they had which were close. Maybe they should have done better with. We got our goal from a nice little quick free kick from Georgie, and then that good play from Bar. Porteous pops up with a nice little finish, but it was. I don't think we were really in the ascendancy at that moment, but at least it gave us something. It gave us something, it got us up in the game, gave us a foothold. But then Wednesday came back into it just 5 minutes later with a strange goal. Like, as you say, they got down the right-hand side, pulled Porteous out of shape. But the finish from Smith was so nonchalant. It was almost like one of those where it looked like the ref had blown and he was just kind of just sort of tapping it. And Backman's kind of on his heels a bit and it goes in. It was an odd goal, but they definitely were in the ascendancy towards half time. It was important that we got in 1-1 at half time. And I think when we came out in the second half, we did, I'm sure Tom will have, said what he said at half time, whether he gave them a kick up the arse or whatever. But we looked like we'd come out with a bit of a renewed sense of purpose. And then you get those 2 penalties. And, I think they were, I've seen the replay I've seen the highlights of the first one, but it's not really a close replay. So I can't really see close up whether or not how much of a handball it was or not. But it was similar, wasn't it, to the one we got against Blackburn, ball bouncing around, Bayo's trying to make something happen. And then the second one's a penalty all day. But you get those 2 situations, you dispatch the penalties, all of a sudden you're 3-1 up and, everything changes. We start looking like this great footballing team. Kayembe's like getting it, turning, spraying it out left and right. Ebosele's Cruyff turning people, putting balls in behind. Dwomoh's buzzing around. Georgie's just having the time of his life, just doing what he wants, going where he wants, taking the extra touch. It's amazing what it can do when you have moments, not lucky because we made those situations through good play, but when you have those moments that go for you and then it just changes psychologically. Everything changed, and Wednesday just completely collapsed. And by the time the 5th goal goes in, there's hardly anyone there. All the Wednesday fans have gone. We were because we were in the obviously behind the goal where most of the goals went in second half, and we were looking at the other end. And gradually, as throughout the second half, the SWFC was revealing itself to us in the seats, and we were waiting to see whether we could get the whole thing by the final whistle.
Look at this, by the way. I mean, as Dave's pretty much summed up, this is the momentum bar of the game yesterday. Sheffield Wednesday having a real spike at the start, and then it kind of evened itself out with a late flurry towards half time when they got their goal. But that section, Adam, in the first, I want to say 20 minutes, is just incredible, really. Sort of demolition job. 4 goals in 30 minutes from Vakoun Bayo. And then, as Dave sort of articulated there, it was just attack, wave and wave after attack. I guess one of the biggest sort of takeaways, and whilst it's an amazing win for Watford, and so happy for those away fans that travelled up, because it's not a short journey up to Sheffield, and we've seen Watford turn out some pretty poor performances away from home this season. That second half was so nice for the travelling Hornets. But was that Watford being good? Or was that a Sheffield Wednesday capitulation, or was it a bit of both?
I'm going to do a classic bit of both here. The first goal. So for the first penalty that we won was like a hacked clearance which fell to Shakfatadze, and then he went down the left and put the cross in for the handball. And so even in those little moments, I think it is moments rather than, we can't term it as Watford were brilliant and Sheffield Wednesday were awful. Honestly, if you look at every single game this season, I think near enough you can pinpoint a moment in the game where it could have gone in a different direction. And I think Watford are sort of middle of the road enough this year where we go into every game and it wouldn't be that much of a shock if we win by 2 or 3 goals or lose by 2 or 3 goals. And there are moments in games which decide which way that's going to go. And so, yeah, they did capitulate a little bit. I was surprised actually when it went to it sort of went 3-1, 4-1 very quickly, but there was no sense of a fight back from them. It felt like they kind of lost their way completely. Obviously, at 4-2, that was actually a potentially slightly nervous moment. Particularly, Ebosele starts Cruyff turning players in his own half, which was a brilliant piece of play. But if you're giving that away again, that's another moment which you never know could change the way it goes. So, yeah, I was surprised that they didn't find more fight, but then Watford played really well. They grew in confidence. Sheffield Wednesday played a really high line, which I think always felt like it gave us a chance. Whenever Shakfatadze got the ball, there were runners and he was looking for players in behind. As we said at the start, it was just one of those halves where it felt like everything came off, really. The penalties as well. I mean, I don't know if we're going to come on to that, but the indecision over who was taking the penalties was yet again something which, if it had gone the other way, we'd be sitting here saying, how have they not planned for that? How did they not know what they were doing? Because I had no idea what the logic was behind Bayo taking the second one at all, and they all looked totally confused by what was happening. So I think we got away with. Well, he scored it, so we didn't get away with it. But I think that's something that we could have criticised them for if it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Dave. On the second penalty with Bayo, was that him demanding to take it? Because just watching from home, we didn't see the pictures, but I've kind of got the sense that he took the ball, picked it up, put it on the spot, and wanted to take it. Mainly because obviously he's got one goal so far this season. I think it's 2 goals in his last 33 games in a Watford shirt. So he needed a goal. Was that him demanding to take it?
I think I was still celebrating the award of the penalty, really. And then then we turn and focus on the pitch, and there he is with the ball in his hands. But maybe that was it. Maybe he just thought, you know what, I'm up for this. I fancy this. This is my chance to get myself on the score sheet and kick on. I don't know. Maybe Ince thought, I don't want to take 2. I don't want to have that psychological.
Ince definitely did have the ball in his hand.
Yeah, okay.
Ince definitely wanted to take it and then handed it over, I think. Yeah.
But it was a big moment. You miss those. If Bayo misses that penalty, as you say, these little moments in games, it could easily go the other way. And I think there was a big moment towards the end of the first half when Wednesday were on top. Backman made a really good save down at his near post. There was a little bit of play that kind of had Sierralta sort of spinning, not knowing where he was in the penalty area, and they've fashioned a good opportunity. And Backman came out, spread himself really well, saves with his feet, and again that goes in. It could all change. And I think you're right, Adam, about saying that we're a team that on any day can win by a couple, lose by a couple. Just look at our record. We've drawn the fewest games in the division, which I actually quite like that, because I think that is an homage to the great teams of Graham Taylor. They never drew many games, I don't think. If you look back at those league tables, it was always wins or defeats, it seemed. So that feels like quite Watfordy in spirit to me.
Moving up to 5th in the league as well, which I'm sure we'll get onto in terms of what's next for this Watford team. Swansea on Tuesday night, and then Oxford back at Vicarage Road on Friday. I wanted to get into a conversation though about Vakoun Bayo. Before I do that, I should just remind you, please do leave a like on the video, comment down below your thoughts. I'll throw some questions over to the guys on yesterday's. Anything you want us to mention, anything we've missed, let us know, and we'll get straight into it. Let's get into Vakoun Bayo, Adam, because 4 goals in 30 minutes. He becomes the first Watford player to score 4 goals in a game since Odion Ighalo versus Blackpool in January 2015, which was the Ben Watson catalyst substitution with him. I guess the conversation around Bayo is a fascinating one, because he really does split opinion. Tom Cleverley's made it pretty clear before that he's in the team for his off-the-ball work. Which is strange for a striker, because obviously normally it's for their goals and what they bring in terms of numbers. But out of the choices that he's got, which is either Bayo, Jebison, or Bar out of position as a number 9, he seems to have made it pretty clear that Bayo's the number 1 option. Where do you stand on Bayo as a whole? Because I personally feel the criticism is pretty unfair. If you look at the last 2 games, he's been a massive reason to why we won the games. Obviously, this one, without a doubt, because he scored 4. But also, when he came on last week, he wins the penalty that Edu Kiembe slots away against Blackburn, and we go on to win the game. So has your opinion on Bayo changed recently, or is it anything new with him from what we previously knew?
No, I think I've felt fairly consistently that he's... Watford have been blessed over the last 20, 25 years with a lot of pretty decent centre forwards who have gone on and played in the Premier League and played at top level. And we don't have that calibre of striker at the moment. But I do think he's the best bet of what we've got. And I've sort of felt that way throughout the dodgy period of form he's had as well, because he's not fantastic. He's probably never going to play Premier League football. He might never be even a top-end Championship striker. And so, therefore, there will be the odd stinker that he chucks in. So Luton, he did have a bit of a shocker there. And didn't he know about it from the reaction in that away end? And we shouldn't forget that as well. He won't be impervious to... He knows how people feel about him. He won't be impervious to the noise and the groaning and the booing and whatever else. I think there were boos last week when he came on, which was stupid, I thought. And But yeah, I thought he maybe coming out of the team, and actually he missed that. He was on the bench but didn't come on at Leeds at all, did he, after Luton? And maybe that little spell out of the team has done him some good, coming on as a sub against Blackburn in a moment where there's sort of plenty to gain rather than so much to lose. And then yesterday, I did think he was having a okay game in the first half. Like, the hold-up play was better. Maybe in the new shape, there were players getting closer to him. Even if it's not great hold-up play, it's just making a nuisance of himself and it not just being as though he doesn't exist, which is kind of how it is when he's at his worst. You know, he was making life difficult for the defenders. So I thought he was doing okay. And again, probably a case with the goals of, you know, you can't play up front for a decent team as often as he does and not score goals forever. And they've all come along at once. So yeah, I think he's our best option there. And let's face it, the team score enough goals. We're not struggling for goals. So we don't need to focus on the centre forwards goal tally in particular. Shakhtar Tadzi not so much actually. Kayembe scoring goals, Bar scoring goals, they are coming. So looking at the bigger picture, I think he's got to be the man we persevere with for now.
I have to admit, I thought he was going to get a perfect hat trick, Dave. At one point.
Yeah, I know. I mean, he was
another penalty, maybe take it left-footed. Just to...
exactly. Yeah. Could have tapped that last one with his left. I was really pleased for him yesterday because he has had moments in his Watford career where, you know, even thought when we loaned him out in that first season, you thought maybe we never see him again. And I know technically have loaned him out again since, but. You know, I can remember was it against Blackpool, the game where Dwomoh scored? He was getting booed, wasn't he? When he was sort of trudging off the pitch really slowly in that game. And there's been moments where you just think, it's just not going to happen for this guy. Like, he's a trier, but he's just not got it. And there are still games. There will be more games like that this season where he probably flatters to deceive. But he does show resilience. He keeps coming back and he does seem to be a positive sort of character. And he got his reward yesterday, and he showed the confidence to step up and take that penalty. Then he great leap for the header. And as I was saying about what confidence can do to you, there is no way that if that chance is at 0-0 or level, that he scoops it up over the keeper like that with such calmness and composure. I just don't think he would. We've seen him have those chances before, skews them wide, hits them at the keeper. But I was really pleased that he got that goal. And I think you're right. He is our best bet. Jebison just doesn't seem to be at the level yet at the moment that we need him for. I think we were chatting about Jebison on the Rookery End pod that we did with Matt Furnish the other day. And out of nowhere, I plucked it out of thin air for some reason that I thought Bournemouth had bought him for £16 million, which turns out is £14.5 million more than they actually paid for him. Which makes more sense because he does look a bit more like a £1.5 million training fee striker at the moment. But I think Bayo has to play, and you know, he's definitely going to be in the team for the foreseeable after that performance.
Is Bayo our Darwin Núñez? And what I mean by that is, you know, I think of Brentford. I think it was last season Liverpool played Brentford away, and he did that scoop over Mark Flecken. And I remember Michael Owen made the point that out of all the finishes available, that was the most, it made the least sense, probably. Now, Adam, that scoop is absolutely outrageous and genuinely probably will win November Goal of the Month for Watford. It'd take a really good finish, I think, to beat that one. I mean, the Cruyff from Ebusele is naughty. The pass-through is great, and then the chip is fantastic. But I just can't seem to put my finger on Bayo because even the goal he scored against Derby, that scissor kick. I mean, it's not like the guy doesn't have quality, but is it a case of actually not giving him more opportunities? But when he doesn't have time to think, maybe an instinctive finishes, it seems to benefit him a little bit more, maybe rather than when he has time to. Well, I guess with that one he did have a bit of time, but my point is, I can't work him out, Adam. I just can't do it.
He's not one of those players you watch. So like Rajovic, you'd think you're actually technically. We can see clearly technically not quite there. Like, you don't look right over the ball. Like, the poise over the ball isn't what you'd expect from sort of a quality player. I think Bayo looks technically clean quite a lot of the time, and his finishing when he scores with a good finish, you think, yeah, that looks right, looks natural. He nearly scored one yesterday, which wouldn't have been quite as good as the Derby goal, but a kind of an effort over his shoulder in the second half. I can't remember what the score was then. He probably already scored in the game. Remember the Rotherham one a couple of years ago as well, like left foot swivel volley into the top corner. So he has got this bag of tricks with these finishes. I was right behind the angle of the finish yesterday, and I'm not going to pretend I was thinking go on, scoop it, but I was kind of thinking I'm not actually quite, because the keeper was out quite quickly. I'm not sure how he's going to take this. So I actually think I remember that Darwin Núñez one, but I think this was quite a smart finish and efficient finish, as well as looking as good as it was. But yeah, you're right. He's a bit of an enigma, isn't he? Let's face it. But yeah, I think that's as we've said. I think that's our best bet at the moment.
I guess someone did make the point. I think it was Ben, one of our moderators, Dave, that Bayo scored 2 and assisted at Preston last season, which this game very much had shades of. Then scored 1 goal in 19 appearances for the rest of the season. I guess the question is that, look, this game doesn't change Bayo as a footballer. I mean, it's one of those that will be remembered for a long time, I think, by a number of Watford fans. I was there when Bayo scored 4. Similar to when, I don't know if it definitely doesn't top when Lloyd Doyley scored and there was T-shirts being printed. But, there's the same sort of vibe of Adam and Dave. You were there when you saw Bayo score 4, similar to when Arshavin scored 4 at Liverpool. But the point I wanted to make on this was, I guess the question about him in this Watford team now is whether they can back it up, because it's all well and good going away and winning 6-2, having a demolition job in that second half. But actually, Swansea away now, get a positive result, and then Oxford's. That's sort of more. We'll find out more about this Watford team. Yeah,
I think these games they're quite important, I think, now, in terms of if we do have it in us to somehow mount a credible playoff challenge throughout the season, which we're all kind of waiting for us to sort of dissipate and regress back to mid-table, aren't we, at some point? But we just keep pulling results out of the bag that keep us in the mix. And if we have got enough about us to stay up there, this 2 games in a week, away to Swansea, home to Oxford, you've got to be taking 4 points, or at least winning one of them. You've got to keep yourself in there. And I think it will be interesting to see how we play on Tuesday, because the players will be full of confidence, but we've seen those games away at Swansea and places like that in midweek. It just wouldn't surprise you if we go up there and we lose 2-0 or 3-0 and it just doesn't get going and it's flat. So I think it is quite important that we can back it up. I mean, even if we came away with a point, who knows how the game will go in terms of the game state or whatever. But I think it would be another step forward in terms of, right, that's 2 undefeated on the road now. We've got this kind of away form thing out of our system. But Swansea beat Oxford at the weekend, didn't they? I think actually they got a win, so they might be confident themselves. I think they've had an amazing start to the season. But it's going to be an interesting one. I'm toying with the idea of maybe going to the game. I don't know, but I don't want to tempt fate.
John, you want to do it, Dave. I think. I mean, in that second half, by the way, Watford had 12 attempts in that second half, 7 of which were on target. I guess probably the biggest positive from my end, lads, on that second half was actually plenty of times before, as you mentioned, Dave, it would be very Watfordy now to go to Swansea and lose. But we've seen a lot of occasions where Watford have the opportunity to kill a team off and they don't. And I think that was a sort of, we smelt the blood when we got that penalty. The penalties were the catalyst, of course, but we then capitalised on heads dropping from a Sheffield Wednesday point of view. They capitulated and we killed them off. That was probably the most pleasing aspect, that Watford were clinical, because plenty of times, maybe a couple of times this season, but certainly last season, where it was there for the taking and we didn't take that opportunity. I really wanted to touch on the penalties again, Adam. The only reason I say that is because Tom Delibashiru versus Sunderland, Kiembe versus Blackburn.
Tom Cleverly,
Here he is.
You know what? That was not planned at all, by the way. Oh, Charlie, how are you? You put me so off guard there. Charlie, how are you?
I'm knackered. I just was listening in as I got home and heard Dave talk about the playoffs, so I thought I'd join.
Charlie, before I do my sort of monologue about penalties and why Watford have cracked the system, what did you think of yesterday?
Madness, confusing. Were we good?
I'll let David and Adam answer that.
we were good second half.
You were good second half, yeah. We were good
We
second half.
put our foot down, didn't we? Which was pleasing. Like we didn't stop going at them. Yeah, I thought it was definitely a Sheffield Wednesday capitulation, but pleasing to see the waves and waves of attack and Bayo scoring 4 goals. Who would have thought it, eh?
Who would have thought it? Four. Oh God, you throw me so far off, Charlie. By the way,
I'll leave it if you want.
No, I like. No, it's beautiful. Watford have scored 4 out of 4 penalties this season with 4 different takers. I guess the question is, as a keeper, how do you prep for Watford now, Adam? You know, there's not going to be enough space in that water bottle to get the research on there, get the notes on there. So how on earth, if you're an opposition goalkeeper, do you prep? Because I mean, who's going to take the next one?
Well, yeah, made even harder by the fact that Watford don't know how to prep for Watford by the scenes things. Like, it was really weird, particularly. So that's 3 penalties in a row, really, where there seems to have been quite a lot of confusion. Because last week we know that Kayembe was, well, third choice by the sound of it, with Ince having gone off, a mystery player deciding they don't want to take it. Yesterday, Kayembe is on the pitch with Ince, but Ince was meant to be the taker last week, so it kind of makes sense he takes it, but they still didn't know he was going to. There was a chat going on between him and Kayembe. Ince scores, and then, for Kayembe then to not be in the conversation for the one after, but Bayo is. It was, cleverly said afterwards he's happy to leave it to the players to kind of work it out on the pitch, but I don't know. It put me on edge, to be honest, watching them all with their arms like shrugging, shaking their heads. I saw Shaq Fatadzi react when Bayo picked up the ball in a way which he wouldn't have wanted to see just before he takes a penalty. So honestly, I mean, who would take the first one on Tuesday? Ince probably. But you're right. I do think we'd be probably having a more earnest conversation about it if it had gone wrong, because it was a bit of a mess.
I was just praying Bayo scored that, because I hate commotion before a penalty. And Beadle was always going to dive. I mean, I don't think he knew where he was going to put it. But yeah, job done. I mean, the Sheffield Wednesday fans were full of compliments for Shaq Fatadzi. I know Sam mentioned it yesterday, Charlie, on our group chat about sort of his role this season. Is it getting to the point now with Shaq Fatadzi where I think Andrew wants, a really good phrase from Andrew is it does feel like he's the best player in the playground, in the sense that he's played at the highest level out of everyone on the pitch. Technically, he's the best player. He can do things that other players can't do. But because maybe his final ball at the moment and his final decision is lacking, we're kind of picking it out because we know maybe he doesn't have the numbers to back up the performances that he's shown this season. But Sheffield Wednesday fans, Charlie, are saying, God, what a player, the best player on the pitch. I think it was the same for Blackburn, the same most weeks, really. Is it because we see it week in, week out? We kind of expect it from Georgie now.
Yeah, Sam Yuko, the curse, did the old, has he been performing well recently at half time? And then I just replied about 20 minutes later saying, yes. I don't know if you guys talked about like any tactical change, but I just thought, and I said at half time, I'd just love to see him get deeper, because he just seemed kind of on the left high, not influencing the game and not being able to get on the ball. And it just felt like in the second half, he was just getting on the ball and just making things happen. They were petrified of him. He was running at people, creating space for others. Great assist for one of Bayo's goals yesterday. He is definitely our best player. We just need to get him in the right areas. And I do think that is slightly deeper. I think if we are playing that 4-3-3 shape or 4-2-3-1 and he's out left, we're not getting the best of him. So I don't know if what you guys said, if there was a tactical tweak yesterday to get him more in the game, if we did change shape. I didn't really notice one, but I just thought he was getting on the ball, and that just caused a lot of problems for them and helped us really get a hold of the game.
Dave, left, middle, Georgie, where do you stand on him?
Well, I think he's a player that's, wherever he starts, that nominally starts out, he's always going to want to get on the ball and drift around. He ended the game against Blackburn sort of in like a number 10 quite centrally, which is good because he's got options and he can go both ways. But yeah, I've sort of had the same sort of feeling about him recent weeks of he's really good for us in terms of carrying the ball, like Ben's saying here, and getting us up the pitch. But whether it's his fault or whether it's the lack of movement or quality from the players that he's passing to, but more often than not, it doesn't always seem to end up in us creating chances or he hasn't got many assists and that sort of thing. But yesterday, he was great yesterday. I mean, even the quick free kick for the first goal, it's a good bit of ingenuity from him, quick thinking, and then he. For the first penalty, as you said, Adam, he kind of makes this run. Good first touch. It takes him into a bit of space. Good ball back in, and then a lovely little cross for the header, for Bayo's header, which I thought, I wonder whether he was trying to sort of chip it into the top corner, but it was really not. Yeah, but he was just so confident yesterday, and it just clicked. It all just came together, and he is superb. I'd like to see him shooting more. Doesn't seem to shoot much at the moment, does he?
No, maybe he's just one of those players that enjoys the art of an assist. Charlie, I wanted to ask you about, well, it's a comment from Stuart. Charlie, I thought the biggest change between the two halves was our willingness to go direct.
I didn't really notice that. What? Sorry, Stuart. As in us going direct, as in long ball, or Georgie just being direct?
I'm a bit more in behind, I guess. Well, I don't know. Stuart,
I thought we were going in behind quite a lot throughout the whole game, actually. Like, Bayo had a few that he chased in the first half, didn't he, when we went? They played a really high line. And actually, it was Bayo more than Bar who seemed to sort of benefit from that. So, yeah, I thought it was a sort of a tactic which actually we persevered with, even though it didn't work so well in the first half. But that ball in behind, and Bayo was making good runs, as he eventually scored from. It felt like they were making it relatively easy for us to create chances against them. So yeah, I didn't notice the change, but something I think we did more than we have done in previous weeks.
Is there anything else we've missed on the game, lads, before I talk to you about expectations? Because Watford do go up to 5th in the league.
I think we do need a word for Dwomoh. I know we touched on him briefly, but the fact that that's his first start for us in the league, and he's one of those, actually, I hadn't paid too much attention to kind of his backstory or anything when he signed. You know, he's only 20. I actually didn't realise he was only 20 years old. And he just looked really assured yesterday. Because I think when we saw the news that Sissoko was going to be banned, you know, Sissoko's been far from perfect this season. He's had his good moments, but he's had his games where he's disappointed. But I was worried. I was thinking, well, who's going to come in here? We're a bit light in that position. We don't know about Dwomoh. We probably can't rely on Loser. But Dwomoh came in, and just from the opening minutes, he just kept it simple. He was good energy. He was bold with some of his passes as well. He was trying to sort of drill passes through the lines a little bit, but also keeping it simple when he had to. And it was really encouraging. And, you know, again, he's another player now that I think is now in the reckoning in terms of being able to get proper minutes and serious minutes for this team. Whereas a few weeks ago or earlier in the season, you might have thought that is he one of these that's just not going to feature much. But it's great to have him in the mix, and he was good, I thought.
This comment from friend of the channel, Jordan Weimer. Dwomoh has that gangly, loose dribbling style that makes him so hard to read. Looks like he's going to lose the ball on every touch, but finds a way through. What I liked, in the pre-match press conference, Charlie, Tom cleverly mentions about the difference between Loser and Dwomoh. And Dwomoh's a bit better in the tight spaces with the shorter passes, whereas Loser's probably got a better range of passing. But I think the word that Dave used there was composed. For a guy who's only 20, his full debut away from home, you know, again, football cliche, but, you know, it's a difficult place to go, Hillsborough. And, and he looked really assured. And a guy who, I hate to say it, and yeah, it's a small sample size, but he did feel like that midfield looked a lot more balanced with him in it.
I thought it was good. He has played in Belgium, I think, last season, like all season. I know the team he was playing for, I think, got relegated in the top tier. So he has got a bit of pedigree about him, even though he's still only 20. It was interesting at the start of the season when Tom was kind of like, we're trying to hold those guys back to unleash them. But we all knew the injuries were going to come. And yeah, I thought it was pretty good yesterday. Shades of Capu, maybe? No, it's a bit too far. But yeah, I thought he was...
Goodness me. How many have you had today?
Work it. No, I am tired. But I thought he was solid. I thought he's done enough to keep the shirt. We haven't got anyone else. It doesn't look good for Loser, though, does it?
No. Adam, Derek Payne on commentary said Dwomoh reminded him of Kone.
Yeah, I was actually thinking he's got a few. I did think the Capoue thing, although I wasn't going to be brave enough to say it on a live stream. He had a few attributes of a few of the midfield, good, decent midfielders we've had over the years. I think Capoue, in terms of the reading of the game and getting in front of players when they were on the ball, there were quite a few interceptions and like winning the ball back. And then Kone, I think that dribbling style description fits Kone as well. So yeah, I thought it was really good. And like basically from now on, he's right in the mix, isn't he? I think to play along with the other guys. Obviously, Sissoko's missing both games this week, so I'd imagine he might start both, certainly one, if not both of the 2 games. Yeah, Eberseli I know we've mentioned Eberseli already a little bit, but I think maybe worth mentioning just how good he was off the bench. Not entirely sure why he didn't start. Might be to do with because Andrews, I don't think, was on the bench at all, so maybe there's an injury there. So maybe they're sort of saving Eberseli for the two games this week. But I feel like he's a signing which was quite under the radar right at the end of the window when we'd already started well. Actually, he's played 50 games for Udinese in the last 2 seasons. He was already a real breakthrough player for Derby, and he's gone over there and maybe sort of tightened up defensively, technically. Because I remember him being just a rapid winger for Derby. But yeah, I think he's someone who actually moves the dial for us, like a real upgrade in that position.
Imagine being a left back and having him and Bar running at you all game.
Yeah, he's a promotion quality player, Eberseli, in my opinion. I think a team that goes up and he would be part of the squad in terms of what he could bring to the team. In that 30 minutes, as you say, Adam, 3 key passes, 1 assist, which is fantastic as well. And also the types of passes. This is interesting. Stuart says, I asked Andrew French about Andrew's missing, and if he was injured, he said he wasn't injured, just not selected. Now, Stuart's our source here, so Stuart was trusting you with that one. But that is interesting if that is true. What that's about, we're not too sure. But I think one thing, it's going to be tough for Andrews with Eberseli, because I think Eberseli, as you say, Adam, is a player who's coming with real quality. Looking ahead now, though, lads, Dave, one for you, and actually for all of you guys, has expectations changed after yesterday? As I said, twice today, Watford do move up to 5th in the table. We've all said about how good the home form is. It's all about improving the away form. It's a big result yesterday. It's a big scoreline. But has your expectations changed about this Watford team? Or are you simply enjoying the rides? It's one of those seasons where you just enjoy the ride and see where we end up.
I am enjoying it. It has been fun for the most part, but certainly at home. I don't think we're getting carried away. I sense amongst the fan base that there is a level of realism about what we can ultimately achieve this season. But I think it's nice to enjoy it while it's good, and we're enjoying having Tom cleverly, obviously having the big Tifo banner for him the other day shows that we're behind him and we identify with him. He's a player that we can sense now how much he sort of loves the club and everything, and it's a nice relationship and it's going well. But like, it wasn't a few games ago after the Luton game or whatever, I'm listening to the lads on the Rookery end, and Mike's going, "Oh, if he loses another one, Gino might reach for the trigger." We know we're never far away from that sort of territory. But it's great to be up there. We're up there with some teams who do have serious expectation on them, the likes of Leeds, Sheffield United, Sunderland, Burnley. Even though West Brom seemingly can't win at the moment, they're still up there with us. So look, it might regress at some point. We might fall back into mid-table, and it is still quite tight. The table's really, really tight in terms of points, like from 15th up to sort of where we are. There's not much in it. But we're getting into a period now where some of those fixtures, don't want to jinx it, but some of those fixtures over the next few, post international break and these 2 in this week, they look all right on paper. So it'll be interesting to see where we are sort of come Christmas time.
Whisper it quietly. Hey, Dave. I mean, that was the first time Watford had back-to-back wins this season since the opening 3 games of the season. Well, we obviously won the opening 3, but Tom Cleverly's mentioned it a lot about finding consistency, Charlie, with this team, and a real opportunity, as Dave says, going into the next 2. Swansea away on Tuesday, Oxford at home on Friday. 2 winnable games, and 2 games where if you turn around with 2 wins, Charlie, again, touch wood, you're looking at a really strong finish going into the November international break.
I don't know. I'm not sure. Like, I'd love to think if we can get to like around Christmas. Coventry have won a couple of games now. They'll do their usual thing of after that international break, just steam right up there. You got teams like Middlesbrough who can't be winning. Norwich haven't won in ages. I think they're a really good team. I don't know. Maybe have this conversation around Christmas if we are still up there, or early in the new year. I just don't think we've got the squad for it. I think we've been like listening to from the Rookery end with Matt Furness. I do think we are in a bit of a false position, but let's just enjoy it. If we keep winning, if the confidence is there and we start picking up points away, Bayo turns into the next R9. Who knows? Now, I seriously don't think we can talk about that yet. But come to me January. When are we playing QPR? January 1st?
New Year's Day, yeah.
Do you know what Charlie circles QPR away as his sort of El Clasico? It's probably the best game in his calendar. That one, it's some sort of litmus test for Watford over the season. Adam, just what would be a good return for Watford at the next two?
A good return would be 4 points, I'd say. I mean, a very good. They're two winnable games, but if we were to, thing is, Oxford's a good return to win, right? So a draw at Swansea, win against Oxford would be a very good week. As Dave was saying, we're not drawing too many games, and you'd rather win one, lose one, than draw two. So hopefully, at least one win this week. I agree with the lads about expectations for the season. I think obviously the data shows that, and even from watching the games, as we've talked about, it feels like they're on a knife edge most weeks at the moment, and that probably isn't a recipe for finishing where we are at the moment. But enjoy it while it lasts.
And the confidence is there, lads. Predictions for the next two. I think Charlie, are you about Wednesday for Swansea?
Am I about Wednesday? Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll have a video out on Wednesday. Professional as ever. I mean, look, lads, what's the predictions for the next two before the international break? What would be what Adam said 4 would be a good return, but what do you think Watford will get is always the better question, because this is Watford.
I think we're gonna beat Swansea. I think we're going to go up there, and expectations are going to be really high. 2 away wins in a few days, and then we're going to lose to Oxford on Friday.
Oh, under the sky. Is it the sky cameras are there, under the lights?
Yeah.
That Oxford one, you can really imagine it either way, can't you? It could be one of those like Yeovil nights, or we turn up for the we turn up for the big Friday night on Sky. I've no idea. Sorry, you went to Charlie first, didn't you?
No, I just had flashbacks to Alexander Merkel. Charlie, next two.
I predict Dave's going to book his tickets right after this and get himself there. I'm going for Swansea. Haven't been that great. Did you say they won yesterday?
They beat Oxford, I think, at the weekend. Yeah.
Beat Oxford. Yeah, I know their fans aren't liking the Williams ain't doing too well. I think we're going to lose midweek and retain our sensational home form against Oxford under the lights. So, yeah, I'm going for 3 points, and I think that would just be just fine.
Perfect. Rio does say our home form is up there with the best in the league. Our away form is one of the worst. Steady up the away form, and we might be talking about the playoffs. Charlie, there we go. Rio said it. Last thing I wanted to wrap up on was actually Matt Furness has been mentioned a couple of times today, and he did this tweet, if I can get it up very quickly, about Watford's 6th goal. If you can see that, Watford's 6th goal versus Sheffield Wednesday yesterday ended a sequence of 17 passes and involved 9 of the 10 outfield players. Sorry, Ken Semmer. It was the longest passing move leading to a Watford league goal since February 2019. Deeney versus Cardiff, 26 passes.
Oh, wow.
Did you lads appreciate that?
Sexy football.
Did you lads appreciate that at the time in the away?
That was I remember that Cardiff goal. That was quite a similar kind of game where it was just like one of those second halves where we just everything seemed to go our way. I actually didn't appreciate that yesterday. No, I didn't pick up on that particularly.
We'd started the Olays. There was a period of some Olays, wasn't there? But yeah, it's lovely. Like we said, though, it's easy to look like world beaters when you're 5-2 up. But great that they did it. It was, well, what a moment, what a game.
Great that they did it. It did finish Sheffield Wednesday 2, Watford 6. Thanks so much to everyone who watched live today. If you are listening to this back, make sure to drop us a review. A huge thank you to Adam, DCW, and a late appearance from Mr. Zazera to cap off a wonderful evening talking about a massive result for Watford. And if you did enjoy the video, please do leave a like, comment down below your thoughts on any of the talking points we discussed today and your predictions for the next two before the November international break. Subscribe to the channel, follow WD18 at WD18 fans. Make sure to check out From the Rookery End for all the latest on Watford Football Club. And we will see you in the next one. Take care, guys, and have a great week. Up the Hornets.